For now, what is the second straight week, unemployment claims in the US have risen. This is after 4 months of steady decline in the numbers. There were from the peak. Now, these numbers are still larger than anything we've seen in history, but it was declining. It was at least slowly declining for the past 4 months. But in the past 2 weeks now, 2 weeks straight, we've seen an increase in those unemployment numbers. So this is an article from CNBC and titled U.S. Weekly Jobless Claims Rise for a Second Straight Week, total 1.434 million people. That's 1.434 million people. They'll adjust this up to like 1.5 surely. The adjustments come in later in the week. If you're ever interested in this, the weekly unemployment claims numbers are released every single Thursday in the US. So every Thursday in the morning sometime they release these numbers. And this is released by the Labor Department, the US Labor Department. So 1.434 million people filed unemployment claims. So that's 1.5 million new people filing for unemployment, which that number is increasing now. So we're seeing increase in unemployment numbers. We're seeing an increase also. This I don't have any figures on for you right now, but we're also seeing an increase in permanent job loss as well. So in the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of the job loss, a lot of this unemployment was temporary. It's the kind of thing where workers were getting furloughed. People are essentially being told, okay, listen, you're going to have to go for now because we're shutting down, but we're going to keep you on payroll and we'll bring you back eventually. Some people, you're essentially furloughed in a way. You're fired, but it's known that you're coming back to your job. And it's one of the questions that they ask you when you're unemployed. Is this a job? Is your job still available to you? Will you be returning to this job once the job opens back up? And so what we're finding is that more and more people are saying, no, that job's gone and it's gone for good. In fact, they said economists have estimated that about 50% of the jobs that have been lost in this economy are never coming back. So these are stark numbers that we're seeing here, and they're only getting worse. So just to read from this article, the number of Americans who filed new claims for unemployment benefits last week totaled 1.434 million, the Labor Department reported Thursday, roughly in line with expectations as the coronavirus pandemic continues to ravage the U.S. economy. It was the 19th straight week in which initial claims totaled at least 1 million. Now, just put this in perspective. During the Great Recession, the 2008 housing crisis, the peak at the height of the Great Recession, the jobless claims reached 625,000 a week. So what we're talking about, even at its lowest, we were still more than double the weekly unemployment claims of the worst point of the Great Recession, and we were more than double it for 19 straight weeks. 19 straight weeks, okay? So, I mean, we really need to put this stuff in perspective. What we're talking about here is unprecedented economic decline for the country. This is an unprecedented economic decline. So we have to keep this in mind. And it's become normalized now. And I've even seen this stuff like celebrated, like, oh, the numbers are decreasing. Yeah, they're decreasing, but they're still beyond anything we've experienced in the history of this country. So worse than the Great Depression. The Great Depression, we lost, I think they lost 30 million jobs, but it took 3 years to lose 30 million jobs. And during this time, it took about like 3 weeks or something like that. It's like, I'm off on those numbers. I apologize. I'm a little off on those numbers, but it was about 3 years versus about, 3 to 6, about 6 weeks of time for, equaled out in this new Great Depression. What I believe once it has a chance to play out, I believe history will consider this the greatest depression in U.S. history. So, all right. So, continuing claims, which are composed of those receiving unemployment benefits for at least 2 straight weeks, rose by 867,000 to 17.08 to 17 million for the week ending July 18th. They're saying there's still 17 million people that are on continuing claims, plus those are people that have been receiving for at least 2 straight weeks, and then there's been about 3 million more people added to that recently. So, all right, so let's see. So these are what that means is that these unemployment, and hey, I'm on unemployment right now. I'm one of those unemployed people. So I've been unemployed. I've actually been unemployed since about August, the end of August last year. My unemployment wasn't due to COVID-19. Different story for a different day, but it has only been exacerbated by it, of course. And luckily, through some of the pandemic unemployment assistance I have been able to, it's kept me surviving. It's enough for me to at least pay rent and buy food and get through, even enough to pay off some of my debts that were just lingering and looming. So these are really stark numbers, and we really have to keep this in context and just recognize that these numbers are beyond anything in history, and it's been consistently happening for 19 straight weeks. We're seeing numbers beyond the worst of the Great Recession. For 19 straight weeks, what we're talking about here, it hasn't caught up with people, but this is dire. This is very dire, and we'll hear more from professional economists later on in this, that hopefully will give you an idea of just how stark this is. All right, so with that, and just know that these are just the unemployment claims. There are a lot more people that are becoming unemployed. You'll see. I mean, the unemployment offices have been completely overwhelmed. Lines out the door. People in certain states are having to show up overnight, camp out overnight in their cars just to get a ticket to hopefully be seen that day. And so there are many more people that are unemployed and unable to actually get onto unemployment. So these numbers are the absolute minimum of how many people are actually unemployed at this point. So just keep that in mind as well, that it's actually worse than what it looks like here. Thanks for watching Radical Democracy Podcast. I'm your host, Kamali Rose. Please like and share this video, subscribe to the channel, and if it doesn't bother you, hit that bell below to receive notifications whenever we go live or launch a new video. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you can afford it, do me a huge favor and head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/radicaldemocracy and throw me a few bucks. Whatever you can afford, it goes a long way, and I will greatly appreciate it. It helps the channel to continue to exist and to grow, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. All right, peace. All right, that was a good one. That one's it.